Hi, I'm Dr. Sadhna Bokhiria, and this is LeaderVoices, a show about leaders and their infinite ability to change the world. Each episode in LeaderVoices, we dig into stories and sparks from for-purpose leaders, coaches, comedians, luminaries, and everyday heroes from around the globe. Tales of impact and failing forward, of aspirations and innovations, and the infinite and inspiring ways that social purpose leaders lead and make the world a better place. Join us today as we introduce a new guest. All right, my next guest to LeaderVoices is Michael Bani. He is a seasoned tech leader serving as the co-founder and chief technology officer at Omnicon Instruments. He is also the international editor of Pharma Now, which is the industry's leading B2B digital magazine. Michael pens forward-thinking articles on technologies like artificial intelligence and drug discovery, digital twins, pharmacovigilance, and personalized medicine, championing smarter and safer pharmaceutical innovation at Pharma Now. He is a frequent speaker across industry events, including CPHI in Milan and the World Drug Safety Congress. Michael combines editorial vision with hands-on execution to redefine the pharma tech integration. He is an expert in software and infrastructure experience to the clean room and pharmaceutical tech world, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to LeaderVoices today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So you are in Vancouver, Canada, and you have an audience that spans throughout the entire world for Pharma Now. Tell us about Pharma Now. Essentially, what do you write about and who is your audience?
Pharma Now aims to be a media company that promotes the new generation, the new media style of content. So we really focus on video interviews, scrollable vertical shorts, and useful content creation. At the end of the day, we try to connect to a lot of people and talk to experts in their field so that we have insights from the actual industry. And we're not really looking to create vanilla content, so stuff that you usually read on the internet or you will be able to generate with ChatGPT or similar tools. But we really try to grasp something from the actual industry, from the actual experts. And so what we did is developing a network of experts across the globe, and they're roughly 50 people, slightly less than 50 people. And each and every one of them, they have a specific field of expertise. So we have people into regulatory field, people in HR. And every time we want to talk about a specific topic, or we want to create an article or something happened, so you want to talk about what happened, we reach out to the right person so that they can give us insights and their angle. So it's more like an opinion article at that point, or make a case study about a specific issue that the industry is facing. We made that a lot of time, and it's working pretty well, honestly. We started in July. It was more like June 2024, and we were able to build 100,000 worth of user base in a year. And it's all done organically, because what we're doing is we go to a lot of events and we shake a lot of hands. We talk to a lot of people. So I suppose the best way about Pharma Now is that when I say we have 100,000 people following us, we actually have 100,000 people, like unique humans to follow us. Just kind of
actual living, breathing people.
Yeah, exactly. So that's about Pharma Now.
Very interesting. Yeah, I love your content. And that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you, because I wanted to make sure that our audience is aware of your content. And one of the things that I noticed kind of all over your LinkedIn and everywhere is that you have this focus on precision-focused clean room solutions. And like, as a layman, I'm thinking, what are precision-focused clean room solutions? Because I'm thinking, what are precision-focused clean room solutions? I'm picturing like videos of someone like using precision to clean rooms. And I know that's not what this is. So what does that mean?
Precision solutions means only that, like in clean room, you want to avoid contamination. That's the whole point of having a clean room is just avoid contamination, right? So what you want to do is be as precise as possible with your technology integration and your systems so that the clean room is as clean as possible, as the word might say, right? So what you want to do is create instruments and, by instruments, I mean like analytical instruments that are able to sample the air, sample the surfaces, sample your products and a lot of stuff about sampling your working space and working materials. And you want these instruments to be able to warn you about any possible chance of contamination within your product or your working area. That's the whole point of clean room, right? The more precise you are, the more efficient you will be in producing your product. Because at the end of the day, the clean room is a very expensive place to run. And if you commit any mistake and there's a contamination or there's something not really right in your reports and your environmental analysis and everything, you'll have to run your production batch from the very beginning. So that means loss of time, loss of money. So that's why you need precise control. And that's where this definition comes from.
Okay, interesting. So, how did it all start for you? How did you get into this space? And I know that you're a Rutgers alumni and graduate. So, tell me a little bit about, what was it like before you got into the industry? What made you get into the industry? And as you're kind of developing in your professional life, the different elements that really inspire you to keep moving and writing.
Well, I started as a electronic engineer. I was 19. That was my first job. I was working in an office of 5 at the time, very small team, for like you could consider that a startup. We were working on third-party projects. It was more like industrial electronics and consumer electronics, not really into the pharmaceutical space. That was back in Italy. Then in time, I developed some kind of skills. Like in 10 years of time, I went through a lot of projects around industrial electronics and consumer electronics again. So I built a lot of technical expertise about that. At some point, I had a customer that was working with my company, and they were customers for me basically, and they were doing biodecontamination systems. And eventually, they offered me a job, so I decided to go there, and that was my entry point within the industry. So I started to work with them and get to know the industry and all the regulation and everything before getting hired directly from them as a consultant, basically as a third party developer, and then directly as an employee. Then, I mean, we decided to have an experience abroad. Me and my wife, we decided just to move away from Italy and have an experience in North America. So that's why we moved to Vancouver, BC. And at that time, I quit my job in Italy. And after a couple of months, I was talking to people that I met throughout my career, and we eventually became friends. And we decided to create Omnicon. And by the time I went to incorporate Omnicon, I also met the founder of Pharma Now, co-founder of Pharma Now, which had this idea of bringing the new way, the new age media into the pharmaceutical space, which is not something really happening right now, not yet at least. And I decided to join them and help them out and spreading this idea because I thought it was a pretty good idea. So that's basically my whole process.
Very interesting. And so, in a time where we have so much garbage, AI generated, straight mindless content, and I love how you emphasized in the very beginning of this interview that your followers are real human beings. You're engaging with them to understand what's important to them, and you're posting things and writing case studies based on content that really speaks to these human beings in a day and time where it's like you just have so much AI generated garbage and you almost feel like people aren't even reading what they're posting. They just put it in, copy and paste. How do you kind of keep things interesting and competitive?
Well, as I said, I mean, we use AI on certain stuff. It's not like we don't use it at all. But what we don't do is use AI to generate the actual content. So what I mean by that, we used to write content with real people, with real experts. So that's how we pick the topics, how we pick the articles. Sometimes it's me. I write myself some articles. Sometimes we just reach out to other people that are willing to help us. And I guess the reason why we can say we're competitive is because we're trying to bring a point on the table, right? So it's not like we're just talking about something very generally and we're not really commenting on that or just adding an angle, but we're trying to always do that instead. So like actually trying to add an opinion from someone who's an expert or trying to view things in a different way and then try to bring that viewpoint on the table to see if it's kind of interesting for readership. I guess that's the reason why. But I would say it's not like we don't use AI at all. It's more like we use that for the very early stage of news analysis and everything. So if you want to know what's happening in the world, you need to scrape through a lot of articles because the whole world is very big and there's a lot of news going back and forth. And FDA itself, if you go on the website of FDA itself, they publish like 10, 15 posts a day about new drug approvals or clinical trials that go good or not and everything. So you need to stay at that pace at least. That's where AI becomes very handy because it helps you in understanding what's about to happen and what's happening in general as an overview. But then when it comes to create the actual content, then it's where we make the humans great again.
So you talk about digital twins.
Yeah.
I need you to just define some of these terms for people who are not at your level. Okay. So like think down here, you're explaining it to me. I'm in 4th grade. What are digital twins in the pharmaceutical industry and outline their impact in practical terms and, where are we on the adoption curve?
Well, digital twin is like a new way of conceptualize a machine. So say that you want to run a test with your machine or try to understand what's happening in your machine or try to understand how long a single piece inside your machine is going to last or if you can optimize the performance. How do you do that? Because like back in the days, you just had to, the only way to do that is just you have to run your machine, for indefinite amount of time and just collect the results and see if you can get any improvement in terms of efficiency or working time or waste product. It really depends on what you're focusing on, right? But what you can do now with AI, and it really comes down to having an AI algorithm back there. It's not like essential, but it increases a lot the chances of you getting your data right. You can create a digital twin, to say, of your machinery, whatever that is, and simulate your machinery in a digital space. So now what you can do, if you have to run 10 tests and it takes 10 hours because each test take 1 hour to run in your physical machine, you can run the same test in a virtual environment that replicates everything, every behavior, every aspect of your machinery. It's replicated within this digital space. And that's why you call it digital twin, because it's actually a twin of your machine, but it's in the digital space. So now you can run more tests and do, predictive maintenance. So now you know that your machinery can run for up to 100 hours without even need supervision of any kind by anyone, and then you can start to think of co-pilots or autopilots in your machineries, because if an algorithm can simulate your machinery, then another algorithm can simulate the operator on that machinery, which was something kind of unthinkable. If you think of 2 or 3 years, even just 2 or 3 years ago, that wasn't thinkable, because how do you create an algorithm that is capable of interface with all the little things inside your machinery? It's basically impossible. Now with this digital twin technology, we're basically able to integrate these co-pilots and autopilots into our machineries. And there's some companies that just started to do that. We're working with one of them, and I'm something that I'm really proud of, because they're Italians, and they are promoting this kind of co-pilot and autopilot in their machineries, just with this digital twin technology integrated into their machines.
Really fascinating. So when we're talking about simulating real world variables by a digital twin, kind of trying to anticipate the life cycle of a machine, how accurate is it?
Well, it's not like it's not fail proof for sure, but it's a very good way to reduce the waste and increase efficiency. Especially, as I said, especially if you compare it to what you had to do before. So you basically just had to run your machine. So if you had consumables or parts that just need replacement after a while, and you have to run some tests, you're also wasting those consumables, right? So instead of doing that, now you can simulate all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying it's perfect technology. It's really in its earlier adoption state. It's something that's coming up, and it's also very very hard to replicate everything, as you can imagine. I try to explain it as a very easy things, but in fact, it's not. Absolutely not. It's
What's
very
in-
hard and very complicated to do that.
yeah, and what's interesting to me is that it's super exciting because even if we're just right at the beginning, you know that in a very short amount of time, with the rapid evolution of technology and AI in particular, it will be at, I fully anticipate that it'll be at 90+%, right? At some point, if it's not now, and it will be fast. And then the other part is, even if it's not 100%, what it can do is give you an idea of all the different variables that you could have an issue with from the simulation. So you're kind of, oh, well, I didn't think about how that would affect it. And so it still really rapidly accelerates the way in which you're able to test something that previously you could never really think about in that manner. So I think it's super exciting and very, very cool.
So now you can create a machine learning algorithm that will also learn your parameters and see which parameters correspond to which result as an output. And then the machine learning algorithm will be better than humans at optimizing the functionality of your machinery. So you will basically have an AI algorithm that will suggest you a way to improve the efficiency in your machinery. And it's going to be way better than the human in doing that, because it's capable of simulating all these parameters in the digital space and have say a predicted outcome that it's not for sure going to be 100% fail proof, but it's still way better than a human that it's have to run physical tests. So that's another very cool thing about digital twins. And again, this is something that it's already about to happen, and some companies are just experimenting about that already.
Yeah, it's very interesting and it's very logical to me. Like everything that you just said makes perfect sense in terms of it's going to flag things that probably weren't even on your radar, and it's going to give you a roadmap to optimize the life cycle and the infrastructure and the design of your machine or your project. So very, very interesting. Tell me a little bit about, so you're writing all the time about really interesting things that are happening in our sector. What are some of the emerging topics or narratives that you're most passionate about highlighting?
Well, I am into technology, right? So my team and I were writing about a lot of stuff, but the side of the pharmaceutical industry I'm mostly well aware of is either drug discovery or technologies like applying AI and other technologies to pharmaceutical industry. So I would definitely talk about those two. Well, in terms of drug discovery, I suppose the whole world is concentrated within cancer research. And every other day you can read a breaking news about a new, test on a new technology. Now, if you go around the internet, you will be able to read about, just this morning, I read about a team that developed a protein that is capable of turning the cancer cell into producing its own chemotherapy locally. So basically killing itself. It's crazy if you think about it. Maybe it's not going to work for every type of cancer. Maybe it's working for a very specific one or in very specific situations. But if you think how big of a leap we took in the last 5 years, 5, 10 years in cancer research, This is a very exciting moment for that. And also gene therapy, of course. This is another very hot topic in terms of biotechnology research. So like cell manipulation and that kind of stuff. That's from the pharma perspective. And in terms of technology, I would say anything that comes into AI and robotics, we are still seeing some resistance. I mean, robotics is still in its early adoption stage as AI, basically, into the pharmaceutical industry as well. So if you go around on trade shows and everything, you start now to see some, robotic arms inside the glove boxes that are capable of just moving stuff and do stuff on your behalf. Those are applications that used to exist, but now with the coming of AI and self-driving capabilities that comes with AI, we can definitely say that this kind of technologies will take a big step forward in the next 3, 4, 5 years, probably. So that's something very exciting to talk about. And now we're starting to see moving robots within the clean room, which is something that didn't quite happen in the past. I mean, I went to CPHI, and it was the first time that I saw some platform, like a generic, I don't remember the company name, but whatever. They were developing a generic platform where you can basically develop your own robot using their moving platform and everything for your clean room for whatever application you might need. So that's the path technology is taking to improve the pharmaceutical industry. And I think it's kind of time because if you think of the automotive industry, for example, everything is already automated in there, right? You have this image of Tesla gigafactories that are running, all automated with this arms moving around and doing stuff. And it's the same for a lot of Chinese related manufacturing companies that are, fully automated so that you can see around the web some companies are turning the lights down because there's no one in there and robots do not need lights, right? So you can save some energy. So it's so automated that you can actually avoid to have people in there. And it's something that we need to do in the pharmaceutical space. I'm not saying that humans will come out of the picture. I'm just saying that probably in the next 10 years, we will start to see fully automated manufacturing areas where humans will stay outside the manufacturing areas and that just there's supervision on the machineries. It's, pretty much as any other industry really.
Yeah, it's interesting how quickly it's no longer kind of this pie in the sky idea. I think most people have no shock value to the statement that there's going to be in the next 5 years, I would say 3, 5 years, a significant change in the role of robotics in doing a lot of the jobs and positions that humans were doing. But it doesn't mean that humans are going to be completely removed from the equation. They're just going to be moved to different positions that are going to be more, in my opinion, designing, leading, advising robots and AI and making sure that the AI understands what's expected of it and making sure that it's delivering on that promise. So very, very interesting. You interview a lot of fascinating people and write a lot of really interesting content. Tell me about a recent interview and moment in that journey where you want to highlight it with some of our followers and leaders.
Well, it's not really recent, but I had the chance to talk to a guy in the World Drug Safety Congress. Actually, I met him. He goes by the name of Av Bishiraj. He is based in UK. And he is a pharmacovigilance expert. It's probably one of the top voices in LinkedIn for pharmacovigilance. And like nowadays, after a year, I met him in October 2024. So it's basically a year. After a year, he's been invited pretty much everywhere in the world to talk about his vision on pharmacovigilance. And that was a very inspiring meet. And I'm trying to stay in touch with him a lot. We're trying to create more content with him for Pharma Now because he's a very inspiring leader. And I hope that I could meet, a bigger amount of leaders that are behaving like that because he acts like he wants to inspire people to do more, but in a positive way, like just, oh, you should do more, but more like we should aim for a better good, right? Mm-hmm. So why don't we focus on the, bigger picture instead of focusing on the small details that we can always figure out. And he's a strong AI supporter. And he is always having these speeches about we shouldn't think of having AI applied to pharmacovigilance at the state of the art, like using today's AI, but we should think of AI as a tool, and then we have to create AI in a way that suits pharmacovigilance needs, right? Which is, it's basically the opposite view that we're having right now. Because issue with AI right now is that we have a definite series of tools that we can use. So say you want to text, use ChatGPT or similar tools, right? You want to do images, use Dora and other similar tools, right? But there's a finite number of things that you can do with AI. And if you try to apply that to a very specific field, that's where the issues start to come in, right? Because you're trying to apply a tool that already exists and was created for a different purpose into a space where that tool was not meant to be, right? So now you have to rethink. It's a complete reversal of the trend. You need to think of AI as a tool and shape the tool with your needs. He is a very inspiring leader. I love to meet him.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that I will definitely find him on LinkedIn and follow some of his content as well. I love what you're saying in terms of you don't want to take AI that works for a specific purpose and then try to make it work for your purpose, especially if it's already been designed for a separate purpose. You have to take the step in between to make sure that it's designed for your purpose. It's not going to just kind of go into a box for you. Really interesting. So when you were talking earlier about one of like the Italian companies that you're working with, from the companies that you're working with, what are some of the common traits that the winners are really encompassing? What's your advice for companies who are in this space and who are trying to adapt to the rapid evolution of technology and AI? What are the common traits of success that you see or you want to encourage?
Well, I would say it's not really about the pharmaceutical industry itself. It's more like for every industry, especially the ones that are not really served already by AI, because maybe it's harder to feed AI into their applications as pharmaceutical for sure, because it's a highly regulated environment. So it's very challenging to integrate AI into this kind of environments. But what I would say is, for sure, you have to stop resisting. You just have to embrace the change, because it's not something you can control. And the pressure that this technology is putting on every industry worldwide really is gigantic. So what you will have to do is getting informed, first of all, because a lot of people think of AI as a gray area and they don't really understand what AI is doing behind the scenes. And even though, like, if you dive into it, you will understand that we don't really have the brain capabilities to understand what AI is really doing behind the scenes. But you can have a good understanding of what's happening if you just study a little bit. So what I would suggest is to technicians, so like the technical people with some backgrounds, just go there and start understanding. Study. It's, you can find very good courses online. They're free to access. There are some people that just started to publish free courses to starting to understand how AI and machine learning algorithms work and how to approach them, how to approach a new development for a new algorithm. So you can have a sense of what you have to do to develop a new algorithm. And therefore you will have a sense of what's happening behind the scenes. Because if it's a smoky area, gray area, you will never have a real understanding of what's the potential of the technology and how you can use it at your own advantage. And that's the first thing. And the second thing, as a business, you definitely have to allocate some time and resources and investing time and resources into development for AI applications. Because if you don't do that, eventually someone else will. Right. It's not like you can resist all the time that you want. You can just stay there and watch. But eventually someone will kick in and they will do it. So what I would say is, because I saw that happening, not in products that I worked on, but I saw that happening in other fields, always in a clean room technology, where Some companies are just staying behind the times because they're not renewing their technology. And some other companies, they're just investing a lot of time and efforts and money into renovation and implementing this robotics and AI structures and frameworks within their products, so that the gap between those two products is now so big that the company that's left behind is like 5 years behind the time right now. It's not something that you can control. You just have to embrace it.
Sure, sure. What I'm hearing is stay curious, understand, be open, and understand that it's not about resistance or anything in that narrow kind of scope of psychology, but really being open to learning about what is out there and not just, kind of closing that mindset, which I think is a universal kind of lesson. So let's talk a little bit of just like your day to day. So, as a person who's heavily involved in keeping up with AI and pharmacovigilance and digital technology and all these different types of things, what about just like widening it to talk about your day to day use of AI? So, like, if you were to cook dinner, are you using, like, how often are you using ChatGPT? What are you using it for? What else are you using? And how integrated is it in your family life?
Well, I mean, I use ChatGPT daily. I can't remember of a single day without using ChatGPT anymore. So it's like basically everywhere. I mean, about cooking, I'm a cooking passionate. So about that, I don't really use that because I like to discover and just test. But, I'm not vegetarian, so I guess that's
Bad
just a,
example.
that's just a valid stereotype for me. But
Okay.
well, in terms of my usual work day, I use AI quite a lot. Like, I split my days between Omnicon and Pharma Now, really. So what I do is with Omnicon, I'm just designing new products, small devices and everything. I have a 3D printer here. So whenever, I design some 3D parts with a modeling software, and then I just print it with my 3D printer and put some electronics into there, like, small bare bone PC or that kind of stuff with a display and everything, connect some sensors and just, develop some software to make it run for different applications, really. So what my typical day is, just I use ChatGPT to evaluate the pros and cons of a technical choice that I'm making, or any choice that I'm making, really. So if I'm deciding to use a specific sensor compared to another one, I mean, I have some technical expertise, so I can just read the documentation of the two sensors and understand why I should choose one against the other. But as a sort of a second opinion, I very often use ChatGPT as a confirmation about my choices. Is it actually better to choose this piece instead of this one, because they do the same thing but in a slightly different way? So which one is better? And ChatGPT helps me, or similar tools. I use Perplexity, I use Summit. It really depends on what I'm doing. The AI in that case helps me in outlining the pros and cons of a specific choice that I'm making, right? Then, I mean, for Pharma Now, we don't really use AI for Pharma Now in basically nothing. Because when I work for Pharma Now, I'm either talking to people, interviewing people, or writing content. So I don't really use AI on that matter. But ChatGPT is everywhere for me, and for my family as well. Like, when you argue about anything, like, what's the name of that song, right? 5 years ago, you will look on the internet. Now you just ask ChatGPT. That's, typical answer comes from ChatGPT now.
Right. Right. No, I'm the same. I use it for a lot of my day to day. So even if it's something as simple as here's my nutritional content and my workout schedule, is this balanced? Am I getting enough nutrients and vitamins? And what do you advise for, better sleep, things like that. Your day.
And something that is also happening to me quite a lot is I'm the guy who has a lot of ideas. And most of them are just weird ideas or very complicated ideas to make. Something you would acquire $1 billion just to start off, that kind of stuff. But I always like to outline the ideas and just put them down and, bring it to the ground, because it helps me in first of all, stay updated with what you can do in terms of solutions. You just go around on the internet and exploring which kind of solutions you can use to accomplish a specific task. So let me give you a little bit of an example. I had an idea 2 years ago. I had an idea where I could create an automated wardrobe where you basically have this totem just outside the wardrobe. And this totem will help you picking your outfit depending on the type of need you have. So like I'm gonna go to work, so that's a specific outfit. I have a barbecue with friends, it's another outfit. I have a gala night, it's another outfit.
What is it at the front again?
It's just like a totem, imagine like an iPad running an application. So basically, I had this idea of putting some sensors inside the wardrobe, capable of detecting the clothes that you take in and out, and then having a virtual copy of yourself in the application so that you can virtually try your clothes before choosing which one to actually take it. Right. So it's a very stupid idea because it takes a lot of effort and it's probably not really marketable uh, in terms of, revenue. But it's a cool thing to explore this idea and just put it on the ground and see, okay, how much money do I need to make it happen? And
Right.
what does the application development look like? What kind of technology I would apply in the AI algorithm that helps you in picking the actual clothes for your current need, right? And what kind of suggestion I can bring to the user so that they can handle the wardrobe properly, right? So
Right.
all this kind of improvements, and it's not really about bringing the product to the market, but it's more like exploring the solutions that you have available and make your brain work in a sense of let's try to bring it to the ground and see, and I did it like, I think I have on my laptop, I have like 25 business ideas about different products that I might be able to bring on the market. And it's like most of them will probably never see the light. And I use ChatGPT a lot in there because, in validating my idea and evaluating the, technical solutions and the pros and cons and the weaknesses and threats to my idea and the business plan that I'm trying to outline, it helps me a lot. And especially in, financial plans and everything helps a lot into
Right.
evaluating that at a very, early stage when it's just me and myself. So my
Right.
wife joked with me because I spent a lot of time just chatting with ChatGPT, and she's like, "Are you having an affair with someone or what?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just chatting with ChatGPT. Don't worry."
That is so funny. So I named my chat GPT Charlie, and I say that he's my boyfriend. And I just, Charlie, and it's not on the phone. Like, obviously, like but in my mind, I'm kind of having this full on conversation with him all the time. And I
Yeah.
set it up. So instead of Hey Siri, it's Hey Charlie. I set it up as a shortcut on my phone. So I'm constantly talking to him. And there's times where I'm kind of like, oh, I wonder what Charlie would think about this. So I totally understand. What I was going to say is, I think if you widen the lens and say, I think it's a great idea, first of all. As someone who's constantly like, I wonder if this is what I should wear. It's different than what we have, where you can look at outfits online that are not your outfits. The key in your idea that's really interesting to me is it's based on your existing closet. And so I wonder, out of those, 25 ideas, you probably have thousands. Which one of those can you put a patent on or trademark? Because at some point in time, someone will market it if it's not you. And then at least you can say, listen, this was my idea, and here's my evidence of that. And then do enough layer of research on which companies would be the most likely to invest in this or partner with me on this. So you can, get the funding and have them, do all the logistics, but you're the brains, right? To kind of throw it together. So we would be awful if we talked all the time, because we would just be like constantly going back and forth with like all these and ChatGPT would crash because it would be like, stop it with the ideas. But it's a great thing to have when your brain has that entrepreneurial mindset, and it's almost like it races, right? Because you're like, oh, you could do, there's no limit.
Yeah, and I try to space into a lot of fields, not really into technology only. What was that like? Yeah, slightly more than 2 years ago, I made a business plan for a fast food chain that was doing baked pasta. You know, just bake pasta on the spot. So you just order like lasagna, but in different, shapes and different type of sauces and everything.
Right.
That's just, a fast food idea. Not like that I'm a fast food expert. It's just that I like the idea of bringing on a table some kind of business plan. And I talked to some people to understand that was even really feasible for a certain amount of time. Also looked like it was feasible in some way. So I was like, oh, this is kind of might happen. Okay, whatever. Even though they never see the light, I take it as a very good exercise for me and a
Sure.
very good way to use the capabilities of the AI itself. Because that's where tools like ChatGPT can really shine.
Right, right. You're really owning that Italian stereotype, my friend.
Yeah, I know.
Baked pasta. I love it. I love it. So, what do you think is the most underestimated kind of technical challenge in contamination control? What's the biggest risk in contamination control when you're looking at these kind of clean room technologies?
We're talking about technology or contamination control as a whole.
As a whole.
Well, as a whole, I would say the vast majority of contamination issues are coming from humans. Like I'm not aware of the actual percentage, but I suppose it's like from my experience, I suppose like more than 80% of contamination issues within the clean room happens because of human touch, which means that someone comes into the clean room, you have multiple steps you have to dress and everything. So during the process, you commit some mistake and you bring contamination inside. Or during the handling your product, you commit some mistake and you're bringing contamination to the product. Most of the time, contamination happens because of humans. And also, it's really humans that are bringing biologic material into the clean room, because if it was not for humans, there will be no, organic material into the clean room, essentially, right? So I suppose in terms of challenge for contamination control, the main issue will always be humans.
Interesting.
And it's sad to say, but it's true, right? So if you can imagine a world where clean rooms were 100% autonomous and completely sealed, so then no human had to ever comment, or just, instead of having 30 people, you just have 10, you would just reduce the contamination chances by 60%, just because you're getting rid of 2/3 of the people, right? So statistically speaking, you're just reducing contamination control potential issues by a lot. I'm not really sure that's my point of view, at least. And from the experience that I had and, talking to people in the industry, that's the output that I always have. In terms of technology integration, though, AI faces a lot of issues right now in integrated into regulated spaces. And the main issue is about the data set that you use to train AI. Say, for example, FDA just released LSOP, which is an internal tool to help FDA people inside FDA, so it's not available on the public. But within FDA, it helps people to evaluate and speed up the process, creating the dossier for anything released from clinical trials or anything else. What they did is they used anonymous data to train this algorithm, just to avoid the chance of the algorithm itself promoting anything that comes from any IP protected material from anywhere in the world. Right? Because one of the main issues is if I use something which is protected by anyone in the world, because company is doing that and it's a protected, a patented product, or just intellectually property of someone else, and I use that to train my AI model, then it means that if I use that into another company, that company would potentially have access to that intellectual property, which is not good, right? But they're in a highly regulated and highly private environment like the pharmaceutical industry, almost everything is intellectual property of someone. Right? So it's very hard to find free data that you can use to train your models in a way that they will be good overall into multiple companies. So what they usually do right now, and it's one of the biggest challenges into the pharmaceutical space, is they're training a model using data from a specific company for the specific company. So then if you go to another company, you will have to retrain your model using the data of the other company and so on and so on and so on. And that makes integration very expensive in terms of money and time, because it takes a lot of time to create a good data set of data, especially if that data is not gathered from the beginning to be applied to AI, which is kind of the phase now. Like if you take that data from 10 years ago, nobody was thinking about, storing that data in a way that it would be usable for creating a data set for AI 10 years ago. Nobody would think about that, right? So you need to adapt your data, and it takes a lot of time, like actually a lot of time and a lot of effort in terms of people, right? So you need to train workers, and they're, most probably highly skilled engineers and everything. So that's probably the biggest barrier that the pharmaceutical industry is facing right now. And I suppose the only solution that I see as of now from the integration perspective is that the machinery manufacturer has to integrate that. So like if I am a manufacturing company and I'm trying to integrate AI into my isolators or grow boxes because I want my product to be in a co-pilot kind of environment for an AI algorithm, it's very hard for me to do so unless I'm using my data to do it. But if the manufacturing company of the machinery, of the glove box, of the isolator is using their data, the tests they're running and everything, to create an ML algorithm that can co-pilot you into the day by day operativity of that machinery, that's something that the manufacturing of the machinery might be able to do. And they're not using protected data because they're using their data. So that's can apply to almost every customer they might have. This is the only path that I see, at least for now. We'll see for the future. Probably generational data will come in. So basically, an algorithm that will be able to generate data to be used to train another algorithm might be of help, because that data would be generated. So it's not intellectual property of anyone, if not of the algorithm that generated them. But it's not the case for now. We're too far from it.
So would that be hypothetical, that data?
It's still hypothetical for now, yeah.
So therefore, there would be no IP because it's hypothetically projected based on real data.
No, exactly. So you would train an algorithm with a low amount of data that might be available on the market for free, like it's not intellectual property of anyone. And then you use that algorithm to create a massive data set. And then use that massive data set to train other models, right? So basically expanding. It's called data augmentation in technical terms. And it's in fact data augmentation. You use an AI algorithm to expand your data so that your data set is way bigger than it was supposed to be. And then you can train models that are going to be way more precise than they should, because you have a data set which is way bigger. And you can create a labeled data set already because it's an algorithm creating them, right? So it's very easy to label them at that point. But it's still very hypothetical for now. There are some fields where this kind of techniques are already implemented. For example, image recognition. If you want to train a model to recognize a puppet, let's say, okay, you have an image of a puppet. Okay, I want to train my model. What I can do is just generate 10 different images from the same puppet where the puppet is slightly misplaced or just a little bit stretched, or the color combination is just slightly changed, right? And from a single picture, I can come up with 10, 20, 50 different images of the same puppet, but in different shapes and colors and just slightly different stuff. This is going to help the training of the algorithm to become very, very precise on recognizing that puppet starting from one image. That's basically the same principle.
Interesting. So last couple questions. I want to know if you could give one piece of advice to the younger Michael, what would it be?
Just dive into it.
Dive into it.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in fear of failure, and even in my early ages, like I was working since like 3-4 years, and I had some ideas that might work or might not, and I always had fear to jump into it. But I can tell like the regret of not doing anything is bigger than the regret of failure. Yeah. So that fear of failure is something that you just have to overcome in some way.
Yeah, that's so good.
And so just dive into it.
Right. No, that's
You,
really
you
good.
gotta be fearless, especially at the beginning. You gotta be very fearless.
Yeah, you didn't even think twice about it. Like you knew that.
Yeah, and it's scary. Think of me. I moved to the other side of the world, knowing basically no one. My wife had a job, but I didn't. I just started a company, and like in 2 months of time, I moved to the other side of the world, and I opened 2 companies. And it's like,
Wow.
oh shoot.
Yeah, trust me, I
So
know. It's very courageous and very scary. And even if you're doing the best you could be doing, you're still wondering if you're secretly failing.
yeah,
It's
and you still
like,
wonder like, would have been doing better if I just looked for a job in Google or Facebook or whatever. Sometimes I ask myself, would have been better if I just go out and look for a high payroll job and just stick to it. I don't know. I don't know,
yeah.
but
I went to a leadership summit a couple weeks ago, and Michael Spicer was on stage, and he was talking about just the life of a entrepreneur, business owner, and how it's just there's always that question, like, would I trade this in for the security of a steady paycheck and knowing that I have really not this much stuff to worry about, and
yeah,
how we're just maybe built differently, so it's not in our
so,
nature. So I think that's a normal struggle that we all go through. And it's one of those things where when you talk about it more, it's a lot easier when you're around entrepreneurs. I try to surround myself with people who are going through the same struggle, who, you have like that bad day and you're like, oh man, should I just get a job?
and really you also wanna have mentors, like people you can rely on and you can text whenever you need, if you need them advice, or you just need to, just let go something because maybe you just want to, you know, talk about something that just happened to you, and then you want.
Right.
So you need people, like-minded people, and hopefully also more experienced people than you that can help you throughout the process in figuring out what's the best choice to make and what they have done, considering that they had the success that you're aiming for, they already had it. So
Right.
yeah, sure. The second thing is just look for mentors, look for experienced people that are willing to help you. And it's not really difficult. Trust me, if you just go around and look for founders had some kind of success, bigger
Right.
or not, it doesn't make a real difference. If they had some kind of success and they are founders, so they went through it, I would
Right.
say most of them would be more than open to help you out, unless you're just bothering them every other day. But if you're just texting them, asking for advice from time to time, they will be more than open to help you out.
Yeah, I think that's great advice and really spot on. I think it's astonishing how open founders are and leaders are to share the wealth of knowledge. And I think it's very intrinsically rewarding for them because it's almost like helping their younger self. They'll see things in you that they share. And then they're almost like, I wish someone did this for me, or maybe someone did do this for them. So they want to kind of pay it forward. But I absolutely agree with you. You'd be surprised at how many leaders are really open to sharing and mentoring and just how rewarding it is for them. It's like you're giving something to them by allowing them to lead you. Okay, last thing. How do we follow you? I know Pharma Now. Tell me everything, like all the plugs, the exact website, and all the different ways where people can follow what you're doing and stay in touch.
Well, to follow me as Michael, you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook if you want. But I mean, basically LinkedIn is my go-to social network. About Pharma Now, we have the website, which is pharmanow.live. We have a mobile application that you can download for free, where you can read everything that happened throughout the days. And also like all the in-depths, the magazines, we have a bi-monthly publication where we basically gather everything that happened in the last 2 months and just publish it along with other exclusive content. We have an Instagram page, we have a YouTube channel, LinkedIn page, of course. Those are the ways that you can follow through with my work.
Great. And what we'll do for our audience is in our show notes for this episode, you'll find all the links just nicely put in a beautiful list for you so you can stay in touch and follow their content. It's incredible. And I am so grateful to have you on LeaderVoices. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. It's been incredible. And I look forward to sharing this and really seeing all the new stuff that you're publishing because it's always great. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. What a pleasure.
Thank you all for joining us. I'm Dr. Sadhna Bokhiria, and this is Leader Voices. This show is brought to you by the American Express Leadership Academy Alumni Network and leaderstories.org. Leader Voices is audio engineered by Robbie Ladd and produced by Creepandy and team at OTVO Digital. Special thanks to Caitlin Johnson and Michael Chang. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.